All right, everyone, it's already 7 o'clock. Let's get started with our regular meeting. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor issued on March 16, 2020, the City of Cotulla, Texas will hold a regular meeting at 7 p.m. on Thursday, February 11, 2021, at the Alexander Convention Center, 290 North IH 35, Access Road, Cotulla, Texas, 78014. City Council will have the option to attend in person or by conference call. The citizens of Cotulla will also be able to listen to the meeting by video conference. Public comments can only be accepted in writing no later than 30 minutes in advance of the meeting by sending them to City Secretary Bianca Maldonado at biancam.citysecretary@gmail.com. Questions regarding agenda items can be addressed by calling a message following the number during the meetings. That number is 830-483-1461. All right, roll call. We have Mr. Garcia absent. Does anybody know if he's coming in, Ms. City Secretary?
No, I sent him an email on Monday. I emailed him the agenda, and I never got word back from him.
Which Garcia is that?
Mr. Reynaldo Garcia? All right, well, I need a motion to not excuse Mr. Just a second.
You only need a motion to excuse.
I need a motion to excuse Mr. Reynaldo Garcia.
But if he didn't call, then you don't need to excuse.
Do you know if he called in or no messages?
I didn't speak to him, or if he didn't speak to me.
Mayor, if there's no excuse, then it's just not excused. You don't have
So
to take any
it's an
action
absent.
on it. Yeah.
All right,
You need to excuse.
so Mr. Reynaldo Garcia is absent today. Mr. Ayala is also our councilman that is not here today. Although he did send a doctor's excuse to this one, so I do need a motion to excuse Mr. Ayala.
Mayor, I just want to remind you that it is not required that the council member be physically present to attend the meeting.
Correct.
These are virtual meetings, and and I have discussed this with the city secretary before, that anybody who wants to attend the meeting, that we can set them up, we can provide the computer equipment, and somebody chooses not to be here and doesn't take advantage of the fact that you have a virtual meeting. It's your decision, but this is not the normal circumstance where you actually have to be here.
Correct. But given the fact that he did provide a doctor's excuse, we do need a first motion to excuse Mr. Ayala. First motion by Mr. Gonzalez, I need a second. Second by Mr. Sartuche. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
I make a note, Mr. City Secretary, that Mr. Juan Garcia voted nay, and I got Mr. Sartuche and Mr. Gonzalez voted yes. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 3, the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to item number 4, citizens to be heard. In order to limit the number of people in attendance, per the governor's order, public comments will only be accepted in writing no later than 30 minutes in advance of the meeting by sending them to City Secretary Bianca Maldonado at biancam.citysecretary@gmail.com. City Council cannot discuss any present issue, nor may any action be taken at any given issue at this time. Was there any citizens' comments or anybody that signed up for citizens' comments?
No.
No. All right, then moving on to item number 5, departmental and committee reports.
You have been provided the reports. I asked David to come in and to do just a water gas report because of all the issues that we're having within those two departments.
Yes, sir. David?
Hi, Council, Mayor. So I'm gonna first go into the water report, and I want to report on the water line that's going to the airport. All the water line is already in the ground, installed. We're lacking back T sampling. We're currently doing that right now. As we inspected, we inspected the line this week on Tuesday, we noticed that there were several taps that were not made to the line and they were not in the contract, for the project. So we itemized each tap that was necessary, and there will be a change order to add these taps to the project. I believe the closeout completion should be in 2 weeks. We should have everything, all the services connected and everybody on that new line. The 2-inch water line that we've had there for years that runs out to the airport, of course that's going to be killed, and we're not going to use it anymore, and they have a new 12-inch line to use.
I have a question.
Sure.
On those, you were mentioning the water samples. You be getting the water samples at the end of the water line that they install?
Okay, yeah, the bacteria samples or the Bac-T samples, we're getting it in 3 different places. We're going to get it on Highway 97 by the Knights of Columbus.
Okay.
We're getting one on Airport Boulevard or by the airport. We're going to get one on the bypass, the new bypass that was put in.
Okay.
So I have 1 sample already which passed, and I'm awaiting 2 more.
Okay.
Okay? So moving out of that project, we're going to start to move into a new project, which is a new water tower that they're going to build at the street yard, towards the back of the street yard. This week, the Texas Water Development Board approved all plans for the plans and specs for the project. We are still waiting for approval for the contractor and approval for the contractor to start the project. And that's really all we're waiting for on the project. I don't have a time frame of when the Texas Water Development Board is going to approve it, but it should be soon. So, and as far as the water report, that's all the only 2 projects we have going at the moment. Wastewater. In the wastewater, things have actually been running real well. We've stayed within our permit. We haven't had many issues besides the normal type of issues. This time of the year, grease starts to clog up in the sewer line. And we are running into a little bit of that issue with quite a bit of sewer backups. Sewer backups predominantly on the customer side. So the city has, as a courtesy, we go to a customer's house if they call us and contact us, and if they have a clean out outside, we'll use our sewer equipment to shoot out their line on the outside of their property without doing, of course, anything inside the house.
Right.
We've had quite a bit of those here because of weather. We've had some cold spots and we've had to do that. We've had a few in the street, probably 3 or 4 in a month in the street, which isn't terrible, but the customer lines have been extensive. There's been a lot of calls. So, and really that's been the hassle with the wastewater at this point. Normal to me, our wastewater plant, we do start to have numbers go up a little bit at this time, just because our drying beds, our process, we're not able to process as quickly. But we're still within permit, so there's really not much to say about it. We're keeping up with what we have to.
Okay,
So,
on that wastewater, that dried sludge, where are you hauling it to?
we're still taking it to Laredo.
Oh, okay.
The city of Laredo has, they're now accepting it versus the other companies. The only issue is that the price is more than doubled with the city of Laredo,
Yeah.
but it's still cheaper with what we used to do years ago. So we're still doing better than we used to.
Are we using the old roll-off trucks, sir?
To move stuff around,
Okay.
but we don't use it on the highway.
Oh, okay.
For the dry sludge, that is for that to be shipped to Laredo or taken to Laredo, there's a permit process.
Yeah.
And currently our permit is through Southern Sanitation, so that's who we've been using to take the dry sludge. So it's one truck that has a permit and we can't do it any other way unless we change it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
right now, that's how it is for now.
Okay.
And they're 20-yarders that,
Yeah,
Right.
we've
those
got
low
two
ones.
20-yarders.
Right now, overall, the lift stations that you have here in city limits or outside also, they're all operations pretty good right now.
Well, in my opinion, over the years that I've been here, operation is excellent.
All right. That's good.
Compared to years ago, we would have a lot to talk about, but
Yeah.
we've done a lot of work
What,
to our lift stations.
what
Especially
we-
at
what
Tilano,
we-
no?
What we've actually done to all the lift stations that were done before is we practically changed all of the pumping mechanisms, because the ones that we were using before were getting clogged and we constantly had problems. And so we finally found a pump that would work well, and we slowly shifted over time all of the pumps, and most of our pumps are those pumps now.
Yeah, because I remember on 468, you all
Yes.
having problems with that
Oh,
a
yeah.
while back, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
468 was very problematic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it still is, it's just not on the same frequency as it used to be.
Okay.
You still have debris here and there, but 468 predominantly, we've gotten 2x4s, beer cans,
Yeah.
hypodermic needles, like that lift station has always had a large volume of trash.
I saw that vacuum trailer you guys have, remember you sent it out there the other day?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
That's pretty
We
good.
bought that about 4 years ago, and
It works pretty good.
for the lift stations that are not too deep, we do
Yeah.
use that for preventive maintenance.
Yeah.
Once the lift station gets past about 10, or not the lift station, but the manhole gets past about 10 feet, I then call in Badger to do preventive maintenance.
Yeah, that works good.
So,
Good.
we do that at least yearly. So,
So you have another manhole to take care of now.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We found it accidentally. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but it worked out really well. It got cleaned
What
up.
about at Tilano's lift station?
Delano lift station?
One by
Yeah.
Arturo Gonzalez.
Arturo Gonzalez.
Yeah, that one I have no problems with anymore. We've had a lot of problems there.
We used to have a lot of problems.
Yes.
We still do. We,
And on
we
Baker
kind of
Street,
we kind of temporarily fixed it, but it's not a permanent fix. At some point, we've got to come back and do some more work to it.
Okay.
Oh, and
Okay.
good.
Okay, so that's my water and wastewater report. I have a new report now, which would be for the Cotulla Gas Department. December, or actually at the end of the year, Mr. Juan Velasquez retired. And, I was reporting to ask if I could help out. And that's my motivation, is to help out until we find somebody that can run the department. Coming into the department, I made a report, obviously, and there's two things I want to outline on the report. There are currently 13 violations through the Texas Railroad Commission concerning the gas, and it's a whole range of different things, from education aspects to cathodic protection of our lines. There's a large amount of different things on there. As I read through all of it, though, it doesn't look like, it's not nothing it's here.
The extra little packet that I gave you, it's in there.
Not that one. The other one.
The front looks like this,
Oh, right.
and then
Oh, yeah, right
it's.
here. Yeah, I got it.
That
Go
other
ahead,
one is
go
the
ahead.
chain of command.
So the violations that I found, that, in my opinion, are not extremely serious. There's just several of them. Some of the things on there, money has been spent already and will need to be spent to take care of them. One of the things is item 3 on the report is a leak survey, which is something that is supposed to be done yearly in the gas department. And I guess it wasn't done at the time of inspection, and there was a violation issued. This week we have a company from Corpus that's here actually doing the leak survey. They started on Monday. Since Monday, they have found 14 gas leaks in our system. A lot of them are like a class 3 gas leak, which means it's not serious. It's a matter of tightening up a fitting or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
So far, they have found 2 class 1 gas leaks. They will be resolved. Class 1 is, of course, is the highest and it's considered emergency.
Correct.
They are currently, locates coming, and we're gonna take care of them Monday.
Okay.
One of them is on Pool Street.
Bet you there's one by the creek, no?
300 feet away from your house.
Yeah, right there at the intersection of,
Yep.
yeah.
So
Right
they
there
marked
where
it out.
where the city yard is, right?
No, it's the other way.
The other thing?
It's going up towards
The
Gulf
Diana?
Street.
Oh, where the,
When you
where
drive
the-
up the road.
Where the lady lives,
Yeah, no wonder every time I pass by it smells.
Yeah, and after they did the potholes, I could smell it too.
Yeah, okay.
So I went out there, but we're gonna take care of that next week,
Okay.
or on Tuesday next week, I'm sorry, because we're off Monday.
Okay. Yeah, because the lady called me up that there were some gentlemen in our yard.
Yeah.
I mentioned it to her a little bit.
Yeah, they were doing the survey for the
Okay.
gas leaks. One of the other violations on there was for cathodic protection. Cathodic protection is, we have a lot of steel gas lines in the ground. It's like a battery. You have an anode, and then you have the other part of the battery there, and it passes power or energy, low voltage through the line,
Correct.
and creates a barrier for corrosion.
Correct.
So the violation created for that there was that some of the spots in the city, the cathodic protection was too low. So the remedy for it was to actually do another survey, bring in this company, do a survey and check the cathodic protection throughout the entire city. So once we get that data, of course, it's gonna continue to where we need to put in anodes to bring up the cathodic protection. So that'll probably be an ongoing deal there.
Right.
But at least we're doing our part to, and of
Yes.
course, they're gonna come back and say, well, you need to do this too.
That's
after.
good.
But, so, also, along with that, education and training, we had staff member go to Corpus, 2 weeks ago and completed all the certifications for gas.
Okay.
So, and when we have a new person come in and start with gas, my intention is to train them to run the department. That's my intention, if they're able to.
Yeah.
It's just hard to say until I get, the interview, you can hear and they'll say a lot of things and all, and then you get them there to actually do it, and it turns out different.
Correct.
So hopefully I can find somebody that can do it.
Correct.
And then I can train them on what they need to know and understand the paperwork and all that, and I can move myself back to the water.
Correct.
That's really what my intention is. But yeah, we got the certifications and all that done, and whoever comes in, they're gonna do it also.
Okay.
So Railroad Commission wants everybody to be certified if they're working in the gas.
That's good.
So everybody's gonna get it. Current gas projects, TxDOT has a project on the I-35 access out towards McDonald's and Stripes. Part of their project, they noticed that there was a gas line which was an obstruction to their project, and they asked for the gas line to be relocated. I think about 2 or 3 months ago, you guys may have approved the relocation of the gas line. The project is moving. I believe in about 2 weeks they may be complete on that project. I do want to note that the city did not pay $1 to do any of the project. Everything went through TxDOT, and TxDOT's paying for it. So we actually got a new line out there.
They have a timeline to complete the project by the 19th of February, which it doesn't look like they're gonna meet it. Because the construction of the frontage roads is scheduled to start on that day.
Oh, okay.
Para hacerlo one way, sir? To make it one way?
They're gonna do a one-way loop,
Loop.
but they're gonna widen it, they're resurfacing it, they're gonna fix it because ahorita es muy peligroso.
Right.
Drainage, culverts, and
Yeah.
I think we had mentioned something. They said something about sidewalks out there also.
Yeah, I asked for sidewalks.
And they were gonna also put red lights there at that intersection. And then I don't want to say it the wrong way, because I believe I've said it the wrong way before. But the area of the highway where you go on and it looks like it looks like a chief symbol.
It's an arrowhead.
An
Arrowhead,
arrowhead, yes.
yeah.
It's
I
an
said it
arrowhead.
wrong before, and they looked at me like, what?
It's an
But
arrowhead.
An arrowhead.
Yes, correct.
They're gonna remove the arrowhead, and they're just gonna make a road that comes up and you make a right and get on the highway.
Yeah.
So they're doing a lot of construction out there.
Yeah, when I was in Texas the other day, that's
Yeah.
when they constructed that.
I didn't wanna say it wrong again. 'Cause I was like, what do you mean?
You're
it's
good.
that?
You're good.
So,
Talk a little bit about the doubling of the size of the railroad track at Gardendale and
Oh, okay.
how it impacts our line.
Okay, Aaron.
The gas line?
Eh?
The gas line?
Yes, engineer named Erin Buck. We've actually received several calls from her that Union Pacific wants to add another rail, and I believe it's going to be a third rail between Dilley and Cotulla, or between Gardendale and Cotulla. And our gas line going out of town is in conflict with their project. Ms. Buck has asked me, or she's instructed me to see if I can get some general pricing on relocation of the line. We're gonna try to have Union Pacific obviously pay for it, but more likely our transmission line coming into town will have to be relocated as they commence with the project.
That's a 4-inch main, right?
That's a 4-inch high pressure line.
We used to open those valves.
Yeah.
If they're gonna make it a 3-rail track, would that bridge that built, would that affect it? The Joel Rodriguez loop, would that affect it? 'Cause-
No,
No, it's going
no,
on.
because they had already anticipated that.
Or the
and-
third one?
And so our gas line at that particular point had already been moved by the county, which they paid for it, and they got it out of the way.
Okay.
But the other gas line that's further up is much closer to the track.
Correct.
And it does take a special crew and a special operation, because what they do is they do like a joint, and so they weld one side and they leapfrog the gas line, and then they do the other side, or they interconnect to some other tanks in order to keep the line working the whole time that it's being done.
Correct.
So it's kind of like a live well, which is very dangerous.
Yes, sir.
Larry, didn't we talk one time about purchasing gas from Anadarko?
We
Yeah,
did, but they don't have any interest because we don't have a big enough number. And so we've always talked about asking Dilley and Pearsall to join together with us, and then using that same line to send gas in reverse up that way, and then having everyone bill themselves to get a cheaper price. Because none of these cities, us included, have a current long-term contract, which is not a good thing. But because the gas is unstable, nobody wants to go into a long-term contract.
Right.
Who's the company now, sir?
It's still West Texas Gas. But West Texas Gas, that line becomes very valuable. And so West Texas Gas has approached us already at one point in time asking for us to sell. But when you lose control, when you lose local control, then you're at their mercy.
Yeah.
So you can't, I mean, if you have the line and you're able to maintain it and sustain it, you need to keep it so that they don't take advantage of the people in the community.
Okay. So if there's any questions at all,
I don't have any questions, Dave. I just want to thank you for taking up that responsibility. To me personally, that goes above and beyond.
yes, sir.
And appreciate you for doing that, and being available, and going for training, and willing to train somebody
Yeah.
to do that whenever they get one. But I want to thank you for that, for taking that up, the above and beyond, call.
I also want to thank you and your departments and all
Yes.
your employees for the job they do,
Yes, sir.
especially on weathers like this and every day, and also dealing with this COVID.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and just keep up the good work. Tell them that we do appreciate for everything that they do. Just take care of
Yes.
themselves and take care of their families.
Yes.
We
Through
have,
the pandemic here, we've all come together.
Yes.
I mean, if the water department needs to get on the back of the trash truck, we do it.
Yeah.
We've all come together to make sure services
Yeah.
do not stop.
we're trying to get all our employees vaccinated. I believe there's 13 that we submitted today. I don't know if all your staff is included in that.
I have 4.
And so, did you include them in the 13?
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
included 4 today.
so we got a call and they said, hey, we may have these shots. Do you have any guys that are still out there? And so we submitted those names, and we expect for them to be called and made an appointment to get the shots.
That is great.
Good. All right, if there's no more questions for David,
No,
Thank you, David.
anybody?
Thank you, Dave.
thank you.
David, thank you very much for that report. Moving on to item number 6, approval of minutes, January 28, 2021. Ms. City Secretary, was there any changes made?
There's gonna be one correction made to item number 15. I had to go back and review the recordings to make sure who had done the first motion and who had done the second one. So, I'm gonna add that correction on there before they get executed.
So can we approve or we have to?
Yes.
You can approve subject to the change.
I'll make the motion to approve it, subject to the change.
Second.
I have a first motion to approve item number 15, subject to the change. I have a second motion by first motion was made by Mr. Juan Garcia, second by Mr. Sertuche. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, discussion and possible action on a resolution of the City of Cotulla, a resolution of the City of Cotulla, Texas, calling an election to be held on Saturday, May 1st, 2021, for the purpose of electing one city council member for place 3, one city council member for place 4, one city council member for place 5, by the qualified voters of the City of Cotulla, establishing pay rates for election workers, providing an early voting, and for notice of the election, providing another matters incident in the elections, and setting an effective date. This is something we do every year, so
For every election.
for every election.
Oh,
So if nobody has any questions on this item, I need a first motion to approve item number 7.
So
I just
moved.
want to make sure that that you call Jorge and tell him that the map
I've already spoken to
that
him
he's
about it.
working on is of the essence.
Yes.
And as soon as he finishes it,
I did
so
tell
you
him
can
that
bring
we
it to
needed
council,
prior to.
and then we can take it to whoever records the registration of votes.
We might have to send that map also to the county so they can approve it as well, no?
That's who registers the votes. We don't register the votes.
Okay, excellent. So I need a first motion to approve item number 7. First motion by Mr. Sertuche. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Juan Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 8, discussion and possible action on an ordinance of the City of Cotulla, Texas, granting unto AEP Texas Incorporated to its successors, and assigns a non-exclusive franchise to construct, maintenance, and operate lines and appurtenances and appliances for conducting electricity in, over, under, and through the streets, avenue, alleys, and public places of the city, of declaring a public purpose, incorporating recitals, providing a repeller, providing for severability, and setting an effective date.
Mayor, this is a franchise agreement that the electric utility providers, and there's more than one, in the city of Cotulla, use to set their poles for transmission and distribution of electricity through the grid here in the city of Cotulla. AEP, which is the largest of the bunch, and I think they were the old Central Power and Light, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
They actually are required to enter into a franchise agreement in order to use the public rights of way to set their poles. And we had received a proposed franchise agreement back in probably November of last year, and I had made some markups on it, sent it back to them to take a look at it. They tell me that they've had 2 prior agreements with the city of Cotulla, and these are franchise agreements that have been 30 years in length, which I think is fairly typical for these types of agreement. The franchisee pays to the city a set rate per kilowatt hour that's distributed. The city has no ability to negotiate on that. It's set by the Texas Utility Code, which they write.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The city doesn't write it. They go to Austin and tell them what they want to pay. And so I made a few changes on it, including the caption, which you just read, and sent it back to them. And of course, then they have 2 unnamed lawyers in probably Houston or Dallas that mark them up and basically rejected everything I put on it, and so I called Rita Parrish, who's I guess one of the I guess she runs their office in Uvalde.
She's the external affairs for our area.
And I said, hey, why are you sending us an agreement to look at if you're essentially saying you can use any agreement you want to as long as it's the one we give you, so it's like, what do you want me to do? I mean, if you just want us to pass it, it probably wouldn't make a lot of difference. But honestly, I felt like it's a little heavy-handed on their part. She did say that they see franchise agreements of 25 years, 30 years, even 50 years, and presumably, if the legislature ever changed the utility code, they would have to pay whatever that rate is. But I was a little bit unhappy that they're not. I mean, they even want to tell you what your ordinance has to say. I said, wait a minute, cities pass ordinances, not utility companies. But they're so used to just mowing over everybody. The old joke, you can have any horse you want as long as it's the white horse, And so, I mean, I don't know, Larry, I don't know the lady. She was nice enough.
Yeah, she's a nice lady.
But it's like,
I've been involved in public service and city government for going on 46 years, and about 35 to 40 of those years, I've had an ongoing fight with AEP and the way they treat the communities. They have a very strong lobby group. They were able to get the better end of the deal when they were allowed to deregulate. What they ended up doing was they ended up selling the retail business because they didn't want to deal with the customers, and they kept the transmission and distribution, which is what they currently own, which is what this AEP contract is about, and managed to be able to control the rate of return back to their investors by going to the PUC and getting the state legislature to agree. And so what they did was they did a copycat type franchise that they forced everybody to get. And so the contracts are all the same. I believe the going rate is still 4% of the total receipts that are sold in the community, which is what gets returned to the community. But basically they're all the same. And the only other contract that we have like this is Medina Electric, which is on the western side of town. And as we move into that area more and more, of course, that charge that those customers are receiving will begin to increase to the city. And so it's one of the revenue streams that we have, an important revenue stream, that and the cable and the phone that we actually get into the community, which saves us some on the taxes.
I don't know what they pay. I don't know if Jorge would know what
It's
they pay.
1%.
But what is that dollar wise
It-
in a year? What
Oh,
does it do?
it's 100 and, I wanna say it's $130,000 or $140,000 a year.
So the thing about utility companies, it's a great business to be in, because everything you do, you pass it on to the ratepayer by law. If you have to incur an expense, you're allowed to pass it through. Medina Electric was actually a little more reasonable, when we dealt with them. Like they have provisions, like you have to immediately tell them, when you annex an area, when you change the, where is the city, because you're only allowed to collect the franchise on city rights of way. And
Right.
and I'm like, okay, first of all, the city doesn't have a compliance department, okay? There's nobody at City Hall that looks over every contract they have and says, oh, we have to tell them tomorrow because we just did this, right?
Right.
So they're trying to impose all these requirements on a city that has 20 employees, and it's like they really literally don't care. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Actually, what we have to do when we do an annexation is we have to report the annexation
to the state.
to the state controller's office. And the state controller then notifies everybody that is making a charge that has sales tax related items in the city limits, that they're now in the city limits based on the map that we sent them. So the most important step for us to do is to make sure that when we do annexations, that we have an accurate map that we send to the state controller to make sure that we get recorded all the sales tax that are due to the city.
It's sales tax, it's these kinds of taxes and what have you. So the bottom line is, she said, oh, well, we'll get back to you, and you see the comments, it's one lady, one name on there, and I said, what do you, why do we bother if we have no choice? Now, the one thing you can do, you say, well, I'm not going to give you a 30-year contract. I'll give you a 10-year contract. They don't like that, because then they got to go out and, every 10 years or so. I said, who would ever enter into a 30-year agreement for anything? Some people don't even live 30 years, and they're like, we're so used to getting everything we want that
Yeah.
if anybody ever says anything to us, they're like shocked, that somebody would tell them anything.
The little cities don't give them a lot of hassle, but the big cities make them turn over.
So I guess
Uh,
my thought is you can't increase the rate of competition, and that I get. You wouldn't want to be paying this here and that here, and it's not like an oil lease or something. It's I get that part, and to be honest with you, even if they could do it and they gave you more, the ratepayer's going to pay it. So you're getting it, but that guy down the street's paying his utility bill.
Right.
So my only suggestion is, if they said they're going to let us know, they want to dictate the caption on the ordinance. I'm like, no. It had requirements that you had to read it twice. I said, we don't have a home rule charter. We don't have to have two readings of an ordinance,
Yep.
And they just don't seem.
The home rule cities all force franchise agreements to be read 3 times. So it's got to be passed by council the first time, the second time, and they put the names of the councilmen who are actually voting on the contract. And that's why you have that format set up. But that's why it's done.
So presumably, if you don't pass it, at some point they'll realize they don't have one, and they'll send you another one, the same one they just sent you, and tell you to sign it. What I'd like to do is just talk to Larry about it, and I'll talk to this woman, and if we can get any concessions, for example, the right to audit.
You don't have that right.
We do. Under the utility code, we do. But you're limited to the last 2 years. So even if they did by contract say we'd give you 4 years to go back, the general law says you can only go back 2 years. And I told her, I said, well, you know, even though we could only go back 2 years, we might want to go back more than that, even though we can't do anything about it. You know, just to see. Now, what are the chances that the city of Cotulla is going to spend the money to go do that kind of an audit? Probably none. But if your city attorney's not at least reading the darn thing, you know, then what do you have it for? You know, if you just sign everything people send you, which is what they want you to do. And so, you know, again, Medina Electric is not known for being reasonable, but at least they were willing to talk to you. You know, these guys are like, you know,
Take it or leave it.
it's unfortunate. And like Larry said, he's been at it a long time. He's, you know, these people are notorious for, and the right word is heavy-handed. You know, we're going to do it because we can, you know. And so I think eventually what I'll write her back, say, hey, you said you were going to call me back, or we were going to get to this. I said, have the lawyers call me, which is how you normally do it, right? The lawyers talk to you. They don't even do that, you know. So it's like, at some point I'll hear back from her, and I would just ask that this matter be tabled to the next meeting, and I'll get it resolved by then.
So right now, we're renewing a contract?
They want another franchise.
How long have we been in the other contract?
They said
40 years. I think.
30. They had 2 consecutive 30-year contracts, which they didn't provide me, by the way. So I don't know what they said. For all I know, it's been expired 10 years, and they just realized it.
And for how long do they want to extend this?
30. Now you don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that.
You
If we
could
do,
say-
it'll be the last
25?
one you're gonna sign.
Yeah.
you could say 20,
20,
you could say
25?
25 years.
Yeah.
But you do have to let them use you right away.
Yeah.
And so that's
The reason the city probably didn't get a lot of notoriety before is that all of the cities in South Texas that were served by Central Power and Light had a committee, and it included the cities of Corpus, McAllen, Laredo, and all the other little cities. And the committee used to be called the Central Power and Light Steering Committee. And they had a lawyer that they all paid for out of Austin. His name was Jeffrey Gay, and he represented all the cities. And he's the one that did the audits. And every time that they would file for a rate increase, he's the one that would go in there and say it was unjustified. So that the cities themselves didn't acquire that knowledge, because that knowledge was held by somebody else. And that person was dealing for everybody. And so then once the contract was negotiated, they would all have a meeting by phone, and everybody would agree to the contract. And that's how it was done before.
so just a couple of things. The city of Cotulla owns its gas utility, it owns its water utility. It's, if you consider garbage and sewer utility, they're all owned by the city. Many cities don't. I've worked for cities that own no utilities. All of those little towns around San Antonio, they all get their electricity from CP&S. They all get San Antonio water system. Their gas comes from some other place. And so all public utilities have to go through a rate-making process when they ask to set rates. And our firm actually does a lot of that kind of work. And I think for utility companies, one of our clients is a big utility company. But we're not even talking about that. We're just talking about the wording of the agreement. And they're like, we're not going to do it. Or we're just not going to tell you that we're not going to do it, you know. And so at this point, let me keep working on them, and then I'll come back to you guys. But this is something new for the new council members who probably didn't ever really think about these kinds of things. But there are a lot of cable, gas, everything that runs through a city street, they got to pay for it. But they all, every one of them, has some guy in Austin that's whole job it's maybe more than one guy, is to lobby the legislature to get utility-friendly laws passed.
Legislation.
Right.
All the cities were preempted as far as cable, were preempted as far as telephone, and that happened like in the 70s. And in fact, one of the things that I used to do for the city of Laredo many years ago was contract administration of these contracts that we're talking about today. And I was probably on a wanted poster in Central Power and Light's office, because you know, you gotta fight them.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking
Is that why they know you so well, sir?
Yes.
billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And the reason these companies make so much money is because they're protected by these laws. They sell these bonds on Wall Street, and people invest in them. They make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they I guess they could go under theoretically.
10%.
I've never heard of one going under. And so it's a very lucrative business to be in, where you control both the supply and what you charge. And they used to call them natural monopolies, which meant you weren't going to have a telephone line from, you know, Sprint in your house and another line from there. They all use the same lines.
Yeah.
So they figured out that way to basically charge consumers more money. And I know when Larry was talking earlier, he talked about telephone. Well, who uses a telephone, right? Businesses do. Businesses still have a
Yeah.
phone in their
Landlines.
line. Nobody else does.
Yeah.
You know, and so these things are, again, these are learning things for you all,
Yeah.
and we'll work on it. And
That's good.
it's not like we're ignoring them. It's just like, hey, you know, just trying to get whatever we can get out of it.
All right.
I agree.
So
So-
just a motion to table.
I need a first motion to table item number 8.
Aye.
First motion is made by Mr. Sertucci. I need a second. Second by Mr. Gonzalez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 9, presentation of financial statement by Mr. Jorge Flores. Mr. Flores, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, good evening. First report is the sales tax report. For the month of February, the city will receive $113,674. So for the first 5 months of the year, the city had received $509,128, which is 34% less than last year. Second report, hotel motel. For the month of January, the city received $94,829. And I looked at the collections so far in February, and the city has collected another 16,000. So far that puts you for the quarter at 110,000, which is substantially better than the first quarter of the year, and also the last quarter of last year. Next page is the statement of revenues and expenditures. Page number 1, general fund revenues, $727,002. On page number 4, expenses of $758,355 for a net loss of $31,352. The water sewer fund on page number 5, revenues $558,499. On the next page, expenses of $395,224 for net income of $163,274. The gas fund on page number 7, revenues $121,987, expenses $59,059. for net income of $62,927. And on page number 8 is the solid waste fund. Revenues $261,586, expenses of $396,833 for a net loss of $135,833. On the solid waste fund, you have that net loss because the city purchased a trash truck for $162,000 in the month of January. Are there any questions on the financial report?
No, sir.
Councilman, any questions for Mr. Flores? Mr. Flores, thank you very much for that report.
Thank you, Mr. Flores.
Moving on to item number 10, discussion and possible action on a replat submitted by Albert and Cynthia Agüero from East 50 feet of lots 10, 11, 12, and 13, Block 3 of the original town site of Cotulla to east 50 feet of lots 10 and 11, Block 3 of the original town site of Cotulla.
She has a map where she's basically showing what it is that she wants to do. We don't have any problems in getting it done. And so we would ask you to instruct staff to go ahead and proceed in pursuing this. There's really nothing that gets affected, but she does have to get an engineer or a surveyor to do something called a Mylar, which is a piece of paper on a map about this big, and you get that done, and the mayor has to sign, the county clerk has to sign, all of the signatures have to be there, and then it gets recorded, and then it becomes official. And we have talked to their agent and explained to her what needs to be done, but we would recommend that you approve subject to all of the requirements being done.
Where is this at, sir?
It's
know
where
the
the
streets
drive-through is.
Oh,
In front of Napa.
And it used to be, in fact, that used to be the old
Texaco.
CP&L office.
Yeah, okay. Oh, okay.
And there's like a beauty salon and a game room.
Yeah.
And
What
they're
about-
trying to break those two buildings away
From the vacant lot,
from the vacant lot.
where used to be a gas station.
Yes.
What about the little square, that little triangle? It's not the,
Where?
Behind number 10 and 14, I believe.
yeah, 10 and 11, I
10
think.
and
10,
11.
11.
Those are the buildings. Those are the ones
That's
that are
where-
trying to,
Oh, okay.
to break off.
Yeah, those are the ones where the buildings are.
Okay.
So if they replat it, then they're gonna have to number those lots as well.
Well, it's up to the engineer or the surveyor and how they designate those things. And so on the notes that you put on the Mylar on the site, all of those things need to be addressed.
So they own that entire block.
They own all of it.
And what's the purpose of the?
I would assume it's a sale. Something's gonna sell.
But they want to break away.
So that's not a plat, so you,
It's a replat,
right, but what they've submitted is not a plat.
correct.
It's
That's
just
why,
what they want.
What they want.
that's why the motion is to,
Approve.
you know, for them to submit a replat. And so we're moving forward in a positive manner if council approves.
So what will happen is an engineer will come in here
Correct.
and then you all,
Correct.
and then our engineer, Jorge, will review it to make sure that it complies with the,
With our ordinance.
with our subdivision ordinance.
So what action do we have to take on this?
You just need to tell us to move
We
forward.
need to instruct staff to move forward to, which is replat, right?
I actually think you should reject the plat, but then instruct staff to move forward with bringing, I mean, they could argue this is a plat, it's
They're-
not.
They're not suggesting it's a plat.
Okay.
I spoke to Terry Marco today, and I told her that it wasn't enough, that she was gonna have to bring the Mylar. So she said she would go visit me tomorrow and I
Alright.
can go over what.
But they can't just bring a surveyor, I guess they could.
No, no,
but-
she's,
And I actually did tell her that maybe she could contact Jorge, and Jorge, since he's familiar with everything, and maybe Jorge would.
Well,
be willing to-
he's the one that's gonna have to tell you that, you know, that there's a minimum lot sizes,
Yeah.
you know, all that kind of stuff. There may be utilities in there,
the utilities are in
in the
the alley.
alleys.
In the alley. That's-
There's not really a lot of problems here.
Well, pending a Mylar, I need an approval to instruct staff to move forward on having the client bring us a plat and
then-
instructing
replat.
staff to move forward
Right.
A replat.
Replat.
and a replat.
They have to comply with.
Comply with
subdivision.
with the city's engineer with a replat.
So move.
First motion made by Mr. Juan Garcia, second by Mr. Sertucci. All in favor say aye.
All right.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 11. Report by Larry Doalina on cost-cutting measures for the remainder of the budget year.
We're currently going through the budget and we're looking at items where we can save some money. Considering the revenue streams that we currently receive, we know we're gonna have to amend parts of the budget. And so we will be bringing that back to you. We're gonna bring it to you first for discussion, so we can discuss it. And then after we discuss it, we'll bring it back for formal action. But we are gonna try to save some money and do some things a little bit different so that we can see if we can squeeze a little bit of savings for other things that we need to do.
Let me ask you this, Larry. It seems like I get an email every day from TML talking about these new federal stimulus programs, and that there's money in there for cities with this new one, this 1.9 trillion, which I guess has now been signed into law, or will be signed fairly soon.
Well, unless it passes the Senate.
I believe it has passed the Senate.
No, I don't think so.
Regardless, but I think that there is some money.
In this stimulus package, there is money for cities, including us, and the Republican side of the Senate and the Republican side of the House are adamantly opposed to the cities getting anything, as is our esteemed governor. And but it looks like if it does eventually pass, that we'll be able to get some money. I believe that in the other stimulus bill that was passed in December, when you got a $600 check, that there may be some money in there for continued CARES Act, and we may be able to get some additional money. The next item on the agenda is, in fact, I'm going to discuss the CARES money
CARES
that we
Act.
got and that we're currently waiting for a reimbursement check.
My understanding is that it'll get passed through what they call budget reconciliation, so it can't be filibustered. And so there may be, I know we get something like literally every day from TML, you know, kind of walking through you on that. So.
Yeah.
But the city of Cotulla, if it's having budget issues, which all cities are going to have, it's not because we have a huge police and fire department with pensions we have to fund. These are just nuts and bolts city services here.
Right.
And I think that the objections that have come in Congress are for places like Chicago, New York City, San Francisco, where they have tremendous, already pre-existing problems with their budgets,
Right.
and this just made it worse.
Made it worse.
we actually have always had a surplus in our budget. And so I think that whatever comes in, if anything comes in, will be, will be welcomed, but the city could probably get by even without that.
And that's just, this item 11 is just a report. Do we?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring you back that report.
Okay, moving on to item number 12, report on COVID CARES Act expenditures.
When the stimulus first started, the very first one, the city was authorized $220,000, and there were a series of things that we were allowed to do, and it all had to be related to COVID. It could not be a part of a budget item that you had already budgeted for before. It had to be something that you had to do in addition to whatever it is that you were already doing, and it was restricted to certain things. The city, out of that amount of money, originally got $44,000 that you did not have to do on a reimbursement basis. So we got that amount of money. The city ended up spending the $220,000, and we itemized the expenditures. The bulk of the money that the city did was that it paid for 3 different occasions when COVID testing was done for free to the general public, so that it wouldn't cost anybody any money to get that thing done. And that was a total of $116,000, 224, where we teamed up with the county, and I think all total we did something like 8 or 9 different days where people in this community were tested. They didn't have to go anywhere. All they had to do was go to the fire station, and we did that. The city also bought personal protective equipment, and we had other public health expenses related to our employees going to get individually tested whenever they came into contact with someone who had COVID. We also ended up having to pay these people when they went home and were quarantined and they were not available to work. And so that money was actually being paid or reimbursed by this particular fund, because we kept those employees on staff being paid, and we're getting reimbursed for that amount of money as well. And that amounted to $47,000. We also had to do some improvements, buying this equipment to do the meetings, other things that we had to do with our telephones and our websites, for a total of $5,665. So we submitted this, and we had to submit it by December the 15th. But because the state's not working in their offices, they send this to a runner, and then the runner takes it to somebody else's house, and then they take it to somebody else's house, and then you finally get the check cut. So we're currently waiting for $176,000 to come from these individuals. And we believe that there is another pot of money that we will be able to take care of, so that we can continue some of the things that we're currently doing. And if we're able to expand, and we're really concerned about food and food distribution, we did one event, and we've been calling the San Antonio Food Bank because we want to set up some more. We know that there's people in the community that have a dire need for food, and so we want to do it at least 3 or 4 more times. And so we're going to try to do that as well. But in the process, we're waiting for it, and this is the amount of money. We don't know yet if there is another amount of money and what that amount of money may be.
And with that money that we're waiting for, besides the food bank and all that to buy that for the people, you'll be able to buy some more hand sanitizers and
Oh,
masks
yeah.
and things like that for
Yes,
the
sir.
employees.
All of it.
Okay, that's good.
And Larry, I just wanted to, I know you spoke about it, but the vaccination, I was at the county courthouse today filing, my dad's will actually, I just go file it. And my understanding is that all the county employees have been vaccinated. Is that true?
I don't think so.
I think everybody in the county
Is
clerk's
that true?
office
I don't
is
think so.
vaccinated.
No, not everybody.
Because they were, I
There,
said,
there are some people refusing the vaccine.
well, I mean, it's been offered to
I
them.
know tomorrow the school will be closed because the majority of the teachers will be getting their second.
They're getting their second dosage.
So that's why kids will be doing their schools on.
But the city has
No, it's,
been
there's no
offered
school
any.
whatsoever.
No school, they don't have-
No school for Friday.
We worked out a deal
And no school on Monday
today,
either.
No,
and I think the
correct.
rest of the
No.
employees that we have that want a shot, I think
You
we've
gonna
been
be
able
open?
to get them a slot.
Been hearing about your hamburgers.
They can also go to South Texas Rural Health.
Well, that's where we're
They're going to.
made arrangements.
Yeah, one deal.
Tomorrow?
No. They're gonna call them on the phone. They're appointments. It's not a free-for-all.
Well, I think it's great that we teamed up with the county to do the testing. We also teamed up with the county to do some of the vaccines, am I correct on that, sir?
Well, we offered the use of the facility, but they preferred to stay where they were at. And certainly that's their choice.
Correct.
I know that there's a concern in the community that a lot of strangers have come in from out of town to get the shots. But in order to qualify as a hub where they were gonna take the shots and allow those shots to be distributed, certain agreements had to be done by the health authorities in the counties, and they had to agree that they would not refuse service to anyone who didn't live in the county. And so, it's true, there's been a lot of people from other towns that have gotten shots here.
They were doing vaccines right now?
That's the second dose,
Yeah, second dose.
and that's the second dose for the teachers that Mr. Sartucha mentioned.
Yeah.
I just got my second one today.
I was refused, or I couldn't take the shot. I had my first shot, and because I ended up with COVID, I can't take the second shot.
How do you
County,
feel? How do you feel?
no pain, nothing.
The first 24 hours?
It's good.
I was wondering if y'all can, the secretary, can also mention to every department to see if they have the hand sanitizers, this Lysol spray, at every department, because I'm not sure if they're short or.
Or
just to
let
make
me
sure.
find out, but,
If they are, then I'm the first one they come to.
Okay.
They'll come and they'll.
All right.
but we do have supplies.
Okay, all right.
We do have supplies available.
Okay,
And we do ask that they wear masks
correct.
when they're together in a
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah, I see that,
So if you see somebody that doesn't have it,
yeah.
they're
Not-
supposed to have it.
They're very well, they do wear the proper PPE when they're working and together. That's good.
And I know that we give gloves to the trash guys.
Mm.
I'm not sure if sometimes they don't like to wear them because they get wet.
Yeah.
Well, sir, I want to thank you for that report. That was very interesting on, all those funds, where they go and helping out the employees, materials and equipment that we need. It was an excellent report, so I don't believe we need action on number 12. It was just a report. So at this time, I just want to say to the people of Cotulla, I hope that you all continue to wear the mask. It'll keep everybody safe. Keep on doing what you're doing. Use your hand sanitizers. 6 feet distancing. in order for you and your families to stay safe, we strongly recommend that, and that you constantly use the mask and the hand sanitizers. Especially if you go out of town, we advise you to be very, very careful, or not even to go. But if you must go, please be as careful as possible. Councilman, I don't know if you guys want to say something to the people of Cotulla. If not, everybody, thank you very much for coming here today. Item number 13 is to adjourn the meeting. Meeting is adjourned. It is now 8:14.